Hello everyone, it's Shamila Ramjawan from Johannesburg, South Africa. It's the Red Corner Show's first birthday as well as Women's Month in South Africa. I'm celebrating this Women's Month with 31 inspirational women from across the globe. Today, my guest on the show is Dr. Carolyne Opinde from the UK. Dr. Opinde is a multiple award winner. She's also the founder and CEO of the NGO Whisperer. As it's Women's Month, the topic that we will focus on today is the role of nonprofit organizations and social enterprises in empowering women. Hello, Dr. Opinde, how are you doing?
Hello, Dr. Shamila. It's really a great honor and a pleasure to join you all South Africans around the world and those who are in South Africa. I am just so honored.
I'm so excited about our chat today. I'm so looking forward to hearing from you and your inspiration because you are doing such phenomenal work in the NGO space. So let's start the conversation. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much. Myself, as she has mentioned, I am the founder of the NGO Whisperer. But before that, I am a woman of faith. I believe in using my skills, my talents, and my gifts to impact people's lives. I also consider myself a global citizen. I am originally Kenyan. I've lived in South Africa for many years. I'm a resident of South Africa. I'm married to a handsome Portuguese man, and we live in the United Kingdom. So between the two of us, we have 4 countries that we belong to. And above all, I just love working with communities, especially marginalized communities, disadvantaged communities, to help them find solutions to their problems. And I often refer to myself as a social innovator. I look for innovative ways to make a difference in people's lives. That's who I am in a nutshell.
What an incredible journey. I mean, all those countries. So obviously the UK is now home for you.
Absolutely. The UK is now home for me. After I got married to my husband in 2019, we started the process of me relocating to the UK, and we are in the process of doing that. And COVID came in between. So I am currently based here in the United Kingdom.
Awesome. Dr. Opinde, what inspired you to step into international development, especially working with nonprofit organizations and social enterprises?
My journey into the nonprofit sector actually started in my last year when I was studying Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Chemistry at the University of Nairobi in Kenya. That's my alma mater. And in that last year, I was selected as one of the student leaders who were going to go through HIV and AIDS peer education program to be trained and equipped to train other students on, in those days, they were calling it the ABCs of HIV prevention, care, treatment, and support. That is, it was the A, abstinence, B, being faithful, and C, condomize. And that was within the university. And so this organization called I Choose Life Africa, founded by engineer Mike Mutungi, hired me as soon as I completed my studies. And it was one of those interviews that was like a conversation. And I thought, when is the interview starting? And it ended after 5 minutes, and I was offered a job to work in the nonprofit sector. I was on my way to do 2 things. I had 2 options at that time, Dr. Shamila. I was on my way to either study chemical engineering because of my background in chemistry and mathematics. And the other option I was looking at was to actually work with the national bank in Kenya, the Reserve Bank in Kenya. And so I was looking at either going into banking as a statistician and developing that way. But then I just stumbled into the nonprofit sector, and the rest is history. I never went back to do my master's in chemical engineering or worked at the bank as a statistician. And here we are today.
I think you just found your passion and your purpose. That's what it is. So, there are so many nonprofits around the world and in South Africa as well. What do you think, in your view, does the nonprofit sector play in our society?
Absolutely. There are so many nonprofits, and sometimes people even say, why do we need more nonprofits? Just to give you statistics, we have over 10 million nonprofits and non-governmental organizations worldwide.
Oh my goodness, that is a huge number.
Absolutely. We have 10 million of them. And out of these 10 million, the sources of funding, and this might come as a surprise to many people, that nonprofit is not solely funded by donations. It is actually mainly funded by the nonprofit themselves. Recent statistics show that 48% of revenue that go into the nonprofit sector is actually generated by the organizations themselves through fees and programs that they have, goods and services that they sell, just like you have your foundation and you contribute into your foundation through goods that you sell, which is the Princess D menstrual cup, and profits that come out of that, you channel it into your nonprofit. So 48% of revenue in nonprofits come from the nonprofits themselves. Unlike what many people think, nonprofits depend on donations. Then 33% comes from government, 13 comes from philanthropic donations, and then we have 6% coming from investments and other sources. So it's really important for people to understand the nonprofit sector. The nonprofit sector funds itself to a larger extent, and that is contrary to what many people think. So I wanted to share those statistics so people understand what nonprofits do and why they exist and why they will continue to exist. Secondly, is that if the nonprofit or people who work in the nonprofit were a country, it would be the 5th largest economy in the world.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely. It would be the 5th largest economy in the world. That's according to Johns Hopkins University statistic. Now, going back to, there are so many nonprofits. What do nonprofits do? Nonprofits provide solutions to the whole world to problems which range from climate change, health system strengthening, to education, to peace building, water sanitation and hygiene, and most importantly today, as we speak about women, to gender equality and gender equity. Now, these are problems that the world faces regardless of where we are in the world. Mm-hmm. And nonprofits have stepped into that position to say, this is what we are going to do to make the world a better place. So the role of nonprofits in the world is to do that which the government and the corporate sector cannot do or are not equipped to do.
My goodness, those stats are alarming, but so interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I like sharing these statistics with people so people understand why we are so passionate about this, contrary to what many people may think. Why do you focus so much in the nonprofit? Why can't we just have for-profit companies doing good? The truth of the matter is for-profit companies cannot do the work that nonprofits do. Governments are not equipped. They can do a little bit of it, but they are not equipped to do the work that nonprofits do. And that's why we need nonprofits, and here we are.
When you say governments are not equipped, what do you mean by that? Because I mean, we have the resources. How are they not equipped?
The governments are not equipped in the sense that nonprofit work requires skills, and it requires organizations or programs or projects to be implemented. Mm-hmm. And governments do not have enough capacity to do that. Otherwise, there will be hundreds and hundreds of ministries and departments within government. And there's no, even the richest government in the world still needs nonprofits to help them implement this work. And the other thing is, for you to implement a program, you need technical people who have technical skills. Mm-hmm. And the government by itself cannot handle, most governments cannot handle this by paying the salaries of these people. Even if you go to the richest economies in the world, you think about the United States, Canada, European countries, and so on, they still work through nonprofits. They still have nonprofits such as the Red Cross stepping in to work and to fill in the gap, like working with old people or working with children who are orphaned, or vulnerable children or homeless people in many countries. They are under the Red Cross, like in your countries such as Germany. They have Red Cross providing that support to the community because the government departments cannot handle that.
Yes, that is so true. Dr. Opinde, you know, we're celebrating Women's Month in South Africa. Let's talk about the girls and women. In what ways have nonprofit organizations and social enterprises brought about sustainable changes in the lives of women and girls? Did you see any changes? Are there changes? Please share your views on that.
Absolutely. That is a really good question. Thank you so much. Nonprofits are doing a lot of work to bring changes in the lives of women and girls. And it's not just in the area of gender equality and gender equity. It is across the board. Now, I wanted to share with you something called the Sustainable Development Goals for those who may not be aware of. Mm-hmm. The Sustainable Development Goal is the goals often called the global goals, Sustainable Development Goals or the global goals. These are the blueprint to achieve better and more sustainable future for all of us across the globe. It's not just for middle and low income countries, it's also for high income countries. And what are these? Why do we have this? So the world came together, world leaders, states all over the world came together at the beginning, and they came up with what they call Millennium Development Goals, which had a deadline in 2015. And they were 10 goals, and they were looking at issues that are facing the world, problems that are facing the world. And after that, those problems were still there. And so they came up with 17 goals. Out of the 10, they came up with 17 goals. These 17 goals have 169 targets. And these are targets that we all contribute to, whether we are government, whether we are corporations, whether we are nonprofits, and individuals like me and you in your personal capacity, in our personal capacity. So these Sustainable Development Goals, some of you may know some of them. For example, number 1 is poverty, no poverty. Number 2 is zero hunger. Number 3 is good health. Number 5, which is my favorite one, is gender equality and achieving gender equality. And the last one, which is number 17, is partnership for the goals. Mm-hmm. These 17 Sustainable Development Goals, they have specific targets, and these targets align to solving or help you to solve problems that are happening around the world. Researchers came together, scientists came together, people in the nonprofit, in government, in corporate, and they narrowed it down to 169 targets. Now, this is how nonprofits are impacting the world. If you look at every nonprofit and the work that we do, you kind of fit in 1 or 2, or sometimes more than 3 of these Sustainable Development Goals. And for specifically in the area of women empowerment and girls empowerment, it cuts across all of them. It cuts across all of them, because if you think about no poverty, you look at household level, poverty index within households. Who are most affected? Women and children.
Yes.
If you look at Sustainable Development Goal number 13 on climate action, who is most affected by the effects of climate change? It's the women and the children. It's sometimes even the elderly the most vulnerable in our society. So women issues cut across all the goals. And when you look at the implementation of it, the Sustainable Development Goals, which are United Nations led, guide us. And every country around the world, most of the countries around the world have signed up to be to implement these goals, and they have a national strategic framework that they have developed for their own country. In South Africa, we have developed one for us, which addresses issues that we are facing, of which gender-based violence is at the top when we talk about issues affecting women in South Africa.
Wow. And for those that don't know what Sustainable Development Goals are, I'm sure you heard the term 2030 SDGs or MDGs. That's exactly what Dr. Opinde is referring to now. Dr. Opinde, what challenges does the nonprofit sector experience in empowering women and girls, especially in South Africa, because you're doing a lot of work in South Africa as well? So I'm sure you've come across a lot of challenges. Do you maybe want to take us through that?
Yes, I would like to narrow down to challenges that the NGO Whisperer and our NPOs, non-profit organization partners and social entrepreneurs face as they implement programs that are impacting communities, that are impacting lives of people in South Africa. One of the biggest challenge that I have seen, and that's why even here at the NGO Whisperer, we provide masterclasses to educate people in the nonprofit sector, the challenge of technical expertise. There is some kind of myth that people in the nonprofit sector do not need to be highly skilled. Wrong. You need doctors, you need nurses, you need lawyers, you need every other profession. You need them in the nonprofit sector. And they need to be people who are high caliber, kind of high performing people, staff or teams in the nonprofit sector. What I've noticed with many philanthropists who are looking at setting up nonprofits, they treat it as something that they do after their real jobs or their real business. So it is put in the back burner, and that's something you get to do when you have the time, especially among small and middle-sized nonprofits. Nonprofit work is not something that you think of doing in the evening after 5 o'clock. It is a full-time job. You know it, you have a nonprofit. It is a full-time job, and you need technical expertise to address issues affecting women and technical issues. For example, you need an accountant who is a qualified CPA, certified public accountant. You need monitoring and evaluation people. People have studied statistics like I did at the university to come in and help you with your data and so on and so forth. You need people who, if you're working with women and girls and you're providing healthcare services, you need gynecologists. So all these are people who are experts. And many nonprofits do not have the capacity to do so, or sometimes the founders have this myth that, oh, we will just wing it and just do it as we go along. No, wrong.
It doesn't work like that. And that is why you find so many of them shutting down, because they can't operate. They don't know how to.
Absolutely. And then secondly, I know people would think I want to say funding, but secondly is partnership and networking. And that's where your relational capital comes in. You are able to raise the funding that you need for your work when you have the right partners, when you network with people. And that also takes you to the next level of minimizing duplication of efforts. So many nonprofits are duplicating efforts of other nonprofits. And what I always advise our partners that we work with, our nonprofit, is before you go into an area or a field, find out, do your mapping exercise to find out, is there another nonprofit in your geographical location, whether it's in the province that you work in, whether it's in the municipality that you work in, is there someone else doing that job? And if so, how can you complement what they do,
yes,
instead of duplicating efforts.
yes.
And then number 3, something that really I think is really important is funding. That for me is the last thing, because when you have the technical expertise, you can raise funds. And I know one depends on the other. It's like the chicken and the egg. But when you have the right people, funding will flow. When you have great partners, you have that relational capital, your financial capital, which is funding to do the work, will flow smoothly. So those are the 3 things: technical expertise, partnership and networking to minimize duplication of efforts and to complement one another, and funding.
You've emphasized fundamental points there. Thank you so much for that. Take us through the NGO Whisperer. Just in a nutshell, what you do, how you do it. I know you impact loads of lives. So just very briefly, take us through that.
Wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about the NGO Whisperer. As Dr. Shamila said at the beginning, we are a consulting business. We provide technical support to nonprofits and social enterprises so they can successfully impact people's lives. We believe that work in the nonprofit sector and in social enterprises can be achieved by our slogan or by our tagline, which is connecting people, raising funds, and impacting lives. And through that, we provide services to our clients, which are nonprofits and social enterprises, in 6 different ways. Number 1 is resource mobilization, which is raising funds, but it goes beyond funds. It's also looking at your human resource. It's also looking at the commodities that you may need, whether it's in kind or voluntary work that you get from technical experts. Then we go into project management. Once you've received the funding, you need to manage that. We provide that for nonprofits. Then we look at governance and organizational management. What is that? That looks at the leadership in your organization. You know, John Maxwell said, everything rises and falls on leadership, but knowing how to lead and leading, those are 2 different things. So we help leaders, we help board members, whether they are office bearers or advisory board members, to do their work and to do it well so that they can build a sustainable nonprofit. Then we also look at issues of compliance. For South Africans, you are very much aware that once you have registered your nonprofit, whether it is a nonprofit company or nonprofit organization with the Department for Social Development, you still need to register with SARS, South African Revenue Services, as a public benefit organization. Those are issues of compliance to the Department for Social Development, compliance to for CIPC, or compliance to South African Revenue Services, and compliance also to the donors. So we help nonprofits to understand what compliance systems they need to put in place, checks and balances, so they can be effective and also attract partners, attract implementing partners, attract resource partners, and most of all, attract support from government and donors. Then number 5, we look at executive coaching and masterclasses. Every month we offer 2-hour free masterclasses on Saturdays, the last Saturday of the month. Actually, this month, the next one is going to be on the 21st of August. And every month we offer these 2-hour free masterclasses, like I said, to equip nonprofit leaders. That's for free. On top of that, we offer 4-week masterclasses, and these are paid, where nonprofits come in and have a high impact training over 4 weeks. Over and above that, we recently launched our fellowship program. We started in June up to December. That is our inaugural, the NGO Whisperer Global Fellowship Program 2021. This class will graduate in January 2022. Now, at the end of it all, we provide services in branding and marketing. You may now look at the back here. You can see we have our magazines, the NGO Whisperer magazine. And one special thing about this, Dr. Shamila, we only have women on the cover of our magazine. That's something I
Wonderful.
made a decision. I made an executive decision to say, we will only have women on the cover of our magazine. Of course, we'll feature men in the nonprofit sector within our magazine, but we want to preserve the cover for women who are doing well in the society, women in the nonprofit sector, government, philanthropies, funding agencies, and very soon we are going to have many of you who are listening featured on the NGO Whisperer magazine. Some of you may be on the cover, some of you may be featured in the magazine itself in the different stories, and some of you may even be contributors to the magazine, so you are welcome. And of course, we have our show, and we recently have Dr. Shamila on our show, and we are just so honored. Those are the services that we offer to nonprofits and social enterprises.
Congratulations, you are doing an incredible job. Really applaud you. Just impactful and making a difference in so many people's lives with the NGO Whisperer. I hope I can make it to the cover one day. But Dr. Opinde, how can one get hold of you?
You can reach us through our website. Our website is ngowhisperer.com. ngowhisperer.com.
Awesome. In closing, what would be your message of hope and inspiration to the women out there for Women's Month in South Africa?
My message for women in South Africa is simple, and I will direct it to women, especially those in the nonprofit sector and social enterprises. I believe, and I strongly believe this because I have seen it happening. I believe that problems that we face within our society can be solved when we connect, and that is what we do here at the NGO Whisperer, connecting people. When we raise funds through our collaborations and partnerships, and create programs or projects or interventions in the society that are high impact, meaning move away from having all these many women events and workshops that are not high impact once-off events done during Women's Month. Let's move away from those ones. We know August is Women's Month, but January is also Women's Month. So is February and March and November and December, all these months. Let's not wait for Women's Month for us to implement high impact programs. Let's move away from just workshopping things to actually providing training that will help women in disadvantaged communities to gain skills, to start their own businesses, to gain skills that helps them to be market ready. Because you know what, Dr. Shamila, we can attend all these Women Months workshops and talk shows and everything. But at the end of the day, the women still go back to the townships. Yes. They still ask themselves questions. What are we going to eat tonight? Monday, my children are going to school. How am I going to pay school fees? How about we turn our Women's Month into a month of training and equipping women, so that instead of talking about events that we have, I look so forward to days when we will be saying Women's Month is a month where women are graduating from their 6-month training course, and we are directing them now into the informal and formal job market so they can have decent jobs. I look forward to days when Women's Month will be a month where women are in intensive high impact training to help them to be job ready, you know, as opposed to events. So that is my message. That's my message to women in the nonprofit sector, social entrepreneurs, women in government, and high profile women or high net worth individuals, especially women who have the financial capability and capacity to fund such programs.
Love it. What an awesome way to end the show. Dr. Carolyne Opinde, thank you so much for coming on board and chatting to me on the Red Corner Show. We're going to end there. If you would like to be on the Red Corner Show, please drop me an email, redcornershow@gmail.com. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor. It's a pleasure to be here today. And I look forward to connecting with those of you who are going to reach out to us on our website. And I also forgot to add, you can reach us also on social media. On all social media, we are present there.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Opinde. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.